Alright, everybody, welcome back. Today I will be giving my conference finals predictions for the 2019 NBA playoffs, and I will also be recapping my semifinals predictions to see which of the teams I predicted to go right, or to get which teams I predicted right, and in how many games I predicted them to win. We're going to see how well I did. And then I might also do a little bit of recapping on just the series in general, I'll probably do that as I go along. So starting off with the Eastern Conference Finals, we have the one-seeded Milwaukee Bucks going up against the two-seeded Toronto Raptors. Now, so let's start on the Bucks side of things. They did get Malcolm Brogdon back. He was a little bit hurt, though. He only played, I believe, like 16 or 20 minutes or something like that in the game, or I think he only returned for Game 5, but he only played a little bit in that game. The Bucks didn't lose by any less than 7 points in the 4 straight games that they won. Yeah, so they kind of just took care of business against the Celtics. It wasn't that interesting of a series. So the Bucks are going to have Malcolm Brogdon back, hopefully a little bit healthier than he was before. We're just going to have to see how that pans out. And then on the Raptors side of things, they went to a crazy Game 7 against the Sixers, in which Kawhi hit a buzzer beater that bounced off the rim like 4 times before finally settling in the net. It was a really crazy game. That series, a lot of the games were close, but there were some blowouts. Yeah, the Raptors, they definitely, when other players besides Kawhi are helping, they're a much better team. Kawhi still has been playing fantastically this playoffs. And yeah, like he had 41 in the Game 7 the other night. And yeah, so he has been going off. So as far as the Bucks-Raptors series, I think that this is going to be probably the most interesting series so far in the East. The Raptors-Sixers was really good, but these teams are just obviously the two best in the East, and hopefully if they're at full strength, we're going to have a point guard matchup, two gritty kind of like defensive point guards, and Bledsoe and Lowry going up against each other. Actually, the Raptors, towards the end of that Game 7, they weren't running Danny Green. They were running, I believe, Lowry, Leonard, Siakam, Ibaka, and Gasol. So they were playing really big, and if they decide to do that again, then the Bucks can adapt to that. They can adapt to that because obviously Antetokounmpo has the great size. Lopez is obviously a 7-footer. Middleton could probably slide down to shooting guard, which he played a lot of last year. So these teams match up really nicely. If Leonard is going to guard Antetokounmpo, I definitely think that Giannis can be neutralized, kind of. Not neutralized, but he can be contained, whereas like against the Celtics, their best option against him was like Al Horford. But now you have a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year superstar player that can actually go against a superstar in Giannis himself. And then the other, like both of the stars supporting cast, Giannis and Kawhi, their supporting cast, Giannis's has been better. I just think he has more talent around him. You could make the argument, I guess, that Siakam is a better player than Middleton, but he wasn't really that good in the Sixers series. Sometimes he would just go silent, and other times he would just refuse to shoot the ball. Middleton, I don't think will do that. He's obviously an all-star. He won't shy away from these moments like this. And then if Kawhi is guarded by Giannis, and his supporting cast decides to not really play that well like they have been in some of these games that they've been playing so far, then I think the Raptors could be in trouble. Because Middleton's a pretty solid defender as well, and if Bledsoe can shut Lowry down, Lowry is very inconsistent in the playoffs, and so if Kawhi doesn't have any help and he's getting guarded by Giannis, there's really no chance for the Raptors if that happens, but I don't think it will happen consistently. Siakam has played good in some games in these playoffs. Same with Lowry. He's been pretty good in some games. Ibaka played really well last night. Yeah, but with all that said, I am gonna go with the Bucks in 7 games. Um, Although the Raptors are more experienced, I just think the Bucks want it. Like they haven't been to the or the finals since like Kareem, I think, and this is the first time they've been to the conference finals since like the Ray Allen days in I believe 2001. And yeah, I just think they're hungry for it. Giannis was the regular season, or I think he's probably going to be the regular season MVP, and I think that the Bucks have the best player in this series. I think Giannis is probably a little bit better than Kawhi, although Kawhi has been fantastic in these playoffs, like I said before. I just think the Bucks will edge it out in 7 games. All right, now moving on to the Western Conference, we have the Golden State Warriors, the one-seeded Golden State Warriors, taking on the 3-seeded Portland Trailblazers. Now, there are a lot of storylines in this series. You have the Curry versus Curry matchup. You have the when Durant went on CJ McCollum's podcast in the offseason and like questioned whether or not the Trailblazers were legitimate contenders, and now here they are in the conference finals. And on the topic of Durant, him and DeMarcus Cousins are both questionable for... Actually, I don't think there's really a set date for either of their returns. I think they both are supposed to make it back in this series. I think we've heard more about DeMarcus Cousins and his return, so I think he'll probably be a little bit sooner. We just got something from Steve Kerr today saying how neither of them have like stepped on the court since their injuries, but I'm pretty sure Cousins will, or I think he'll be back around the Game 3 or the Game 4 area. But honestly, I don't really think that losing DeMarcus Cousins was like a big deal. The Warriors have obviously won 3 championships without Cousins. And honest, I don't think Cousins is that big of an... Like, he's still a great player, and he can still... Like, if he's really going off, he can obviously have an impact on the game. But with that said, I don't think he can be an impactful player on, like, a night-to-night basis. Like, the Warriors without him, it's really not that big of a difference. But if they get him back, it's just more players that they have to find and get into a rhythm. And so if he comes back and he's not fully healthy, but people on the Warriors are still trying to get him the ball and get him into a rhythm, that could be problematic. And then with Durant, I think what they've said is that he'll be back later in the series. He was on a tear this playoff before he got hurt. He was dropping like 40 points and 50 points, like just left and right. And so, yeah, he is obviously still very impactful on a night-to-night basis. But as the Warriors have shown, they were able to close it out in Houston in 6 games without him or without Cousins, with just Steph and Clay. And, yeah, that's another thing with this series with the Warriors is that it's really all dependent on how Steph and Clay play. If they play like they did in the Game 6 in the Rockets series, then they'll be set. But if they play like they were in the early part of that series, and they have to rely on someone like Durant to carry, and he's not going to be there, that could be a problem. And then for the Blazers, they had arguably the most fun series to watch so far in the playoffs. They went to 7 against Denver. That series included a 4 overtime game. It included some... Game 7 was only a 4-point margin of victory for the Blazers, so that was really interesting. CJ McCollum was playing really well in that series. One thing to note for the Blazers, their kind of big injury is Rodney Hood. He did get hurt, I believe, in Game 7, and I think he's questionable for Game 1. He's been playing really well this whole playoffs. He hit the big shot, I believe, it was the 4 overtime game. Yeah, he hit a big 3. He's been playing really clutch. He dropped 20, I think, in Game 6, something like that. But without him, their other guards besides McCollum and Lillard, they don't really have a ton of depth there. I mean, they have, I guess, Seth Curry, but I don't know how much production you can get out of him. he had that really good half in one of the games. He dropped like 16 and a half, and then he just didn't score the whole rest of the game. Yeah, but as far as these two teams matching up, I think it's kind of a thing where neither team can like guard each other, I guess. Like if Lillard, he didn't have a super great series in Denver. He was really good though, still. But I don't think you can really, like Steph can't contain him. Certainly Clay can, but then someone would have to come over and guard McCollum because he obviously he played really well in the back half of the Denver series. He dropped, I think, a couple 30-point games, if I'm not mistaken. And so I don't think you can guard both of them at the same time. But the same thing also goes for the Warriors, is that if they're on their game and they're not in their shooting slumps like they were in the first two rounds, you can't really guard Steph and Clay like simultaneously. Yeah, so the Blazers, I just don't think they have more depth and they play probably more like a team. They're not as top heavy, but they probably do have the edge before Cousins comes back in the big man department with, I guess, Enes Kanter, because there's no one really to stop him in the Warriors front court. But as far as like the guards go, I think when they're on their game, it'll definitely be Steph and Clay over Dame and CJ. Steph, he dropped all of his points from Game 6 in the second half. He had like 33, and Clay was shooting lights on the last two games. I think they're set to go off. I think they found their rhythm again, and so I don't really think Portland stands much of a chance. They'll put up a fight. They'll probably win their home games. Like if Portland wins a game on the road in these first two games, I think they have a much better shot, but I don't think they will win either of them, and they'll be lucky if they get any road games. So with all that being said, I'm going to have the Warriors winning in 6 games. Alright, and finally we are going to look back at my semifinals predictions. We're going to see which teams I predicted to win and how many of those I got right, and we're also going to see if I got the correct amount of games they were going to win in correctly. And so we'll start it off with Milwaukee-Boston. I had the Bucks, and I did have them in 6 though. I had the Raptors in 7. I had the Warriors in 6, and I had the Nuggets in 7. So I went 3-1 in terms of picking the teams. I only obviously missed the Denver series. And then in terms of picking how many games, I got 2 correctly. I got the Raptors and the Warriors. And yeah, so I went 3-1 in the teams and 2-2 in the games. Alright, yeah, so that is going to wrap it up for this one. I'm really looking forward to these conference finals matchups. I think it's going to be really eventful. They're going to be really exciting games. Really every game. I don't think it'll be like Celtics Bucks where some days it'll just be blowouts every other game. Yeah, so I think it'll be really exciting. I will probably have a Bulls franchise episode up hopefully soon. And yeah, so that's going to be it for me, and I'm out.